When a woman goes months without contacting you, the silence hits differently. At first, you replay everything in your mind, trying to understand where things shifted, searching for clues in conversations, wondering if you missed something obvious. But eventually, you're forced to face the truth. Time reveals what words never could. A woman's interest is always shown through her effort, not her excuses. If she wanted to talk to you, she would have. If she cared about staying connected, she would have made it happen. People make time for what matters, and silence becomes the clearest answer you could ever receive. But don't mistake her silence for cruelty. It's clarity, it's honesty without confrontation. It's her way of showing you the level of emotional investment she really had. And while it might sting at first, it's also a gift because it frees you from illusions. It frees you from waiting for someone who isn't waiting for you. When someone can go months without hearing your voice, it means they've accepted a reality you might still be resisting. She's not confused. She's not unsure. She's not busy for 90 days straight. She simply doesn't feel what you hoped she did. And that's the hardest truth men need to accept. Attraction is never hidden in silence, it's revealed in effort. When a woman wants to see you, she finds a way. When she misses you, she reaches out. When she respects you, she stays consistent. So when she disappears for months, her actions are telling a story your heart needs to hear, even if your ego doesn't want to. The beauty of this truth is that once you accept it, you can finally stop waiting. You can stop checking your phone. You can stop hoping today will be the day she remembers what you shared. Because she already made her choice, whether she ever says it out loud or not. But here's the powerful part. Her silence doesn't define your worth. It exposes her place in your journey. It shows you that she wasn't meant to walk with you into the next chapter. It shows you who wasn't capable of matching your energy, your consistency, your loyalty. A man who values himself doesn't chase someone who forgot he exists. He doesn't run after someone who stopped trying. He understands that silence is direction, a sign that it's time to invest in someone who sees his value without needing months to realize it. And maybe she didn't disappear out of malice. Maybe she drifted because the connection didn't impact her the way it impacted you. Maybe she wasn't emotionally ready. Or maybe she found comfort elsewhere. But none of that matters now. What matters is that she left space in your life, space for something better, something healthier, something reciprocal. When someone walks away, you don't chase them down the road. You stand still, you breathe, and you face forward. Because the path ahead of you holds more promise than the past you're clinging to. Time always reveals intentions. Her silence is not a question mark, it's a period, a full stop, the end of that chapter. And once you accept that, you stop blaming yourself, you stop overthinking, you stop trying to make sense of a heart that wasn't aligned with yours. You start valuing your own peace. You start understanding that anyone who can go months without you is someone who was never meant for the life you're building. So let her silence be the clarity you needed. Let it guide you back to yourself. Because the man who accepts what time reveals becomes the man who's finally free to grow. When a woman goes months without contacting you, most men assume she's simply forgotten them or moved on. But what they don't realize is that silence isn't always about disinterest. Sometimes it's a test, a mirror held up to your emotional state. She wants to see who you really are when she's not giving you attention. Because how a man behaves in her absence tells her more about him than anything he ever said while she was present. If she pulls away, disappears, or goes distant for long stretches of time, she's watching for one thing, whether you remain grounded, composed, and focused, or whether you fall apart. Your reaction becomes the real answer to how strong you are emotionally. When a woman distances herself, she pays attention to whether you become needy, panicked, or desperate for validation. Do you blow up her phone? Do you beg for clarity? Do you spiral into insecurity? These responses reveal a dependence that kills attraction. She wants to know if your confidence was real or only there as long as she was feeding it. She wants to know whether you're a man who stands on his own or a man who collapses the moment she steps back. Your emotional independence becomes the true test, not to punish you, but to understand you. A man who can stay calm when she pulls away is a man who has mastered himself. He doesn't chase her. He doesn't demand answers. He doesn't crumble into self-doubt. Instead, He continues living, growing, and focusing on his mission. He's steady. He's consistent. He's self-contained. And that emotional stability is what separates a strong man from a fragile one. Women can sense the difference immediately. They can feel whether your energy is grounded or whether it's shaking beneath the surface. Silence becomes the filter through which she sees your true character. And here's the irony. The more emotionally independent you are, the more she feels drawn back to you. When she distances herself, she expects you to reach out, to chase, to try to pull her closer again. But when you don't, when you simply continue on with your life, that's when she starts to wonder. She becomes curious. She starts questioning her assumption that you needed her to feel complete. The moment she realizes you're not waiting by the phone is the moment her perspective begins to shift, because emotional independence is magnetic. It signals strength. It signals maturity. It signals that you're a man who chooses people, not a man who clings to them. The truth is, every woman wants to feel desired, but no woman wants to feel responsible for your sense of worth. When she distances herself and sees you handling it with calm self-respect, she starts to understand that you're someone of substance, someone who can lead, someone who can stand strong in uncertainty, someone who doesn't fold under emotional pressure. And women always gravitate toward men who are grounded within themselves. Not because of manipulation, not because of games, but because stability feels safe. So when she goes months without reaching out, don't interpret it as rejection. See it for what it truly is, a moment where your true strength is revealed. A chance to prove to yourself, not to her, that your life doesn't pause when someone else goes silent. Because the man who remains emotionally independent during distance becomes the man who is in control of his life, his emotions, and his direction. And that man is impossible to ignore. When a woman goes months without contacting you, it's easy to assume she's done with you, that she doesn't care anymore. But often, the real reason behind that silence is far more psychological. She wants to see if you'll be the one to break first. She wants to know if you'll chase her, if you'll reach out, if you'll try to pull her back into your world. And this isn't because she's playing some cruel game. It's because she's trying to understand where she stands in your heart without having to ask directly. Women naturally test the emotional strength of the men they're connected to. They want to know if you have control over yourself or if the moment they pull away, you fall apart. Her silence becomes the stage for that test. If you reach out, if you try to fix things, if you text her after months of distance, she instantly knows she still holds a certain level of control over you. She sees that she can disappear and you'll still come running. And even if she likes you, that chase lowers her attraction because now she sees you as someone who puts her on a pedestal, someone who can't handle distance, someone who needs her attention to feel stable. That's not the energy a strong man gives off. A strong man doesn't move unless he sees effort from her. What most men fail to understand is that chasing a woman after long silence only confirms her decision to pull away in the first place. It tells her that she can distance herself, and you'll reward that distance with pursuit. It tells her you'll always be the one to close the gap, even when she's the one who created it. And once she knows that, her respect shifts. She becomes comfortable. She becomes complacent. She loses the curiosity that keeps attraction alive. The man who chases too quickly becomes the man she overlooks. But when you do the opposite, when you stay silent, composed, and focused on your life, that's when the energy flips. She starts to wonder why you're not reaching out. She expected you to fold, to chase, to show that she still mattered, but your silence sends a different message. You're not waiting. You're not attached to her inconsistency. You're not operating from fear, anxiety, or loneliness. And suddenly she starts questioning herself. Did you lose interest? Did you move on? Did you realize you deserve better? Those thoughts hit her far deeper than any text you could have sent. This is where the power shifts back to you. Because now, instead of her evaluating your weakness, she's evaluating her own feelings. She's comparing the attention she used to get with the silence she's receiving now. She's wondering whether she misjudged your emotional strength. A man who doesn't chase after months of distance becomes the man she didn't expect the man she has to rethink, the man she has to analyze, the man she suddenly has unanswered questions about. and unanswered questions spark attraction. The truth is, silence is neutral until one person breaks it. Whoever reaches out first shows who feels the loss more. But when you refuse to chase, you show that you've accepted her absence. You show that you respect yourself enough not to run after someone who walked away. You show that you're grounded, centered, and in control. And that energy is exactly what women respond to, not desperation, not pursuit, but calm, masculine certainty. So when she pulls away for months and you resist the urge to chase, you prove something far more powerful than love or desire. You prove that you don't lose yourself when someone else goes silent. You show that you're a man who moves forward, not a man who waits at the door for someone who chose to walk out. And that strength is impossible for her to ignore. When she goes months without contacting you, the first thing most men imagine is that she's sitting there thinking about the past, replaying memories, wondering about you. But the truth is, when a woman pulls away for that long, she usually fills that emotional gap with something or someone else. Not necessarily because she's fallen in love with a new man, and not even because she's moved on permanently, but because she needs distraction. She needs something to occupy the emotional space you once filled. Women rarely sit in silence the way men do. They don't just disconnect emotionally and drift into nothingness. If you're not there, she finds something familiar to protect herself from the emptiness. And that can look like work, family, friends, new hobbies, or yes, even a rebound. But distraction is not the same as healing. Don't confuse her temporary attachments with true emotional closure. People can distract themselves for months, even years, but that doesn't mean the connection they had with you magically disappears. She's not out there living some perfect life untouched by the past. She's simply avoiding the emotional weight of facing what she walked away from. That silence you're experiencing isn't always confidence. Sometimes it's avoidance. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's her trying to outrun emotions she doesn't know how to process. A woman who is truly done is indifferent, not busy, not distracted, not jumping into someone else's arms just to feel something. Indifference is quiet, distraction is loud. So when she disappears into a new routine or a new guy, it doesn't mean you've been replaced. It means she's trying to numb the emotional noise inside her. Women seek emotional comfort, and when they feel disconnected from someone, they often look for something to stabilize them. That doesn't make her a bad person, it simply makes her human. It's her way of coping with uncertainty. It's her way of avoiding the vulnerability of admitting she still thinks about you, that she still feels something, that the memory still hit her when no one's watching. But the mistake men make is believing that her distractions mean she has more emotional strength than they do. That's not true. Men feel the absence deeply because they process internally. Women process through expression, through motion, through emotional interaction. So it might look like she's fine because she's busy, social, or appearing happy online, but much of that is a shield. A woman who truly healed doesn't need noise around her. A woman who truly let go doesn't need someone else to patch the emptiness. A woman who truly moved on has peace, not activity. And here's the part you need to remember. Whatever she's distracting herself with is temporary unless she was genuinely emotionally gone long before the silence started. If she still had feelings when things fell apart, those feelings don't disappear just because she filled her days with something new. They sit under the surface, waiting for quiet to reveal them. And that's why so many women return after months of distance, not because they suddenly realize something new, but because the distraction eventually lost its ability to numb the truth. But your job isn't to wait for her to finish running from her emotions. Your job isn't to track her life, analyze her behavior, or compare yourself to whatever fills her time now. Your job is to understand that her distractions don't define your worth. They don't say anything about the depth of your connection or the man you were. They only reveal her coping mechanisms. And once you understand that, you stop taking her silence personally. You stop imagining that she's chosen someone better. You stop assigning value to whatever she's using to avoid the emotional truth. All that matters is that you don't become stuck while she's distracting herself from facing her own reality. When months pass without a single message from her, most men internalize it. They assume she's forgotten them, moved on, erased everything. But what you don't realize is that during that silence, she builds an entire assumption about you, an assumption that you're still stuck exactly where she left you. She believes you're still checking her social media, still replaying old conversations, still thinking about what went wrong. She assumes you're waiting, hoping, holding on, not because you're weak, but because most men do exactly that. Most men freeze when a woman disappears. They collapse into confusion, spend their days analyzing what happened, and allow her absence to dictate their emotional state. And the truth is, she expects you to be one of those men. But here's what she doesn't expect, and what changes everything. She never anticipates that you might outgrow her silence. She never imagines that during those months you evolved, improved, rediscovered yourself. She never considers that you might be becoming someone stronger, someone more focused, someone who stopped waiting for her. And when she finally checks on you, because yes, she will, she looks to confirm what she always believed. She wants to see that you're still emotionally frozen. She wants to see that you haven't moved on. She wants to see that you're still orbiting around the ghost of what you two once were. And when she doesn't find that, everything changes. A man leveling up is a message without words. When she sees you focusing on your goals instead of staring at your phone, she starts to feel something unexpected. Doubt. Doubt in the story she told herself about you. Doubt in her assumption that you'd always be there. Doubt in the belief that she could walk away and still have a place in your mind anytime she wanted. Because women expect emotional dependence. They expect men to break. They expect you to lose yourself when they withdraw. But when you don't, when you stay steady, disciplined, and emotionally independent, she feels a shift. The moment she notices you've grown, she starts comparing the man you're becoming to the man you were when she walked away. And that comparison rarely works in her favor. She begins questioning the distance. She starts wondering if she misread your potential. She wonders if she left someone who was still becoming. And curiosity is a powerful force. Curiosity pulls on the heart the same way gravity pulls on the earth. She may not message you, but she's paying attention quietly. Women check your profile long before they ever reach out. They look for signs of weakness, but what they find instead is strength. And strength disrupts every story she built to justify her silence. That's why your growth matters more during no contact than in any other time. Not because you're trying to impress her, but because it changes the entire dynamic. When she sees you leveling up emotionally, physically, mentally, financially, she realizes something. She doesn't know you anymore, and that unknown is attractive. It pulls her back into a place of wanting answers, wanting clarity, and wrestling with the possibility that she may have underestimated you. A man focused on himself triggers a woman's curiosity far deeper than a man chasing after her ever could. But the real beauty of this isn't about her reaction, it's about what it does to you. When you grow, when you redirect your energy toward your own life, you stop caring about what she assumes. You stop worrying about who she thinks you are. You stop trying to prove anything to anyone. Her assumptions lose their power because you're not living for her recognition anymore. You're living for your purpose. You're becoming the man you were always meant to be. And that transformation is what makes her silence irrelevant. It's what makes her opinion meaningless. It's what frees you from waiting for someone who isn't walking beside you. In the end, the man who grows during silence becomes the man who never needs validation from the person who left. When she goes months without contacting you, it's easy to let your mind spin in every direction. You replay everything. You search for meaning in the silence. You wonder if she's forgotten you, replaced you, or simply erased the entire connection from her life. But the deeper truth, the one most men never see, is that her silence is not just about her. It's a message about you. It's a signal. It's life showing you exactly where your focus needs to be. Because if a woman can go that long without reaching out, you're being given a rare moment of clarity. The universe is redirecting you towards something more important than her yourself. Men often believe that the real closure comes from her explanation, or her apology, or her return. But closure doesn't come from someone else's words. It comes from understanding that your path isn't supposed to be dependent on who stays or who leaves. Her silence is not rejection, it's permission. Permission to stop looking back, permission to stop waiting, Permission to rebuild your life without needing her presence to validate your direction. It's the universe removing noise so you can finally hear your own voice again. When she disappears, the worst thing you can do is freeze. Some men let months go by in emotional paralysis, holding on to what she might be thinking, what she might be feeling, or when she might come back. But that's not living, that's waiting. And a man who waits for someone else to define his worth will always remain stuck. Her silence is your opportunity to rise, to grow, to evolve, to become the kind of man who no longer needs a relationship to feel grounded, valuable, or complete. And here's the truth most men avoid. If she were meant to be part of your future, she wouldn't be silent in your present. People who truly value you don't vanish. They don't leave you questioning your worth, your place, or your importance. They communicate, they show effort, they show consistency. Anyone who can go months without you is showing you exactly where you stand, their priorities, and that's something you can't ignore. You can't build a meaningful life waiting on someone who has already walked away. But the beauty of this situation is that the real moving on isn't hers, it's yours. When you finally accept her silence, you stop tying your identity to her response. You stop letting your emotional world revolve around someone who doesn't show up for you. Instead, you redirect your energy toward becoming the strongest, most grounded version of yourself. You put that energy into your purpose, your health, your goals, your growth. You start becoming the man you should have been focusing on long before she ever left, and that's when everything shifts. Because once you choose to yourself truly, choose yourself, her silence stops hurting, it stops confusing you, it stops holding power over you. It becomes nothing more than evidence that she wasn't meant to walk with you any further. It becomes clarity instead of heartbreak. It becomes direction instead of disappointment. You don't need her to call to understand your path. You don't need her to return to regain your strength. You don't need her to validate the man you're becoming. Her silence is the final message, not that you weren't enough, but that you were meant for more. More growth, more purpose, more alignment, more peace. And once you accept that, you become unstoppable because the man who no longer fears being left behind becomes the man who moves forward with power.